Hi everyone, my name is Danielle on the customer success team with Nutrient. Today we're going to be walking through building a process with Nutrient workflow in just 5 minutes. With any workflow automation tool, there are a lot of features that come out of the box that are really exciting to our customers, but it can be very daunting to know where to start. So what we wanted to do today is kind of show you how we could build a process very quickly in our system and use a lot of features right out of the box. So what we're going to do is show you how easy it is to jump in here, do that work and configure a workflow from the ground up. And I'm going to give myself 5 minutes and we're going to build as much of a workflow as we can. And by the end of it, we'll have a process that we can put into production and start using in our organization. So for today's example, we'll be building a PTO request workflow that we can track any requests that are coming into our organization for time off, and we can use this for both vacation and sick time. And we'll want to route it automatically to our manager, so that way there's no need for any employee to contact the manager directly. It'll just go right into the system, assigned to their manager, and the manager can do the approval from there. Once the manager approves, the system will automatically let the employee know whether their request was approved or denied. Again, this is all automated by Nutrient Workflow without any intervention from the user, sending custom emails to each other, or getting lost in inboxes. It'll all be tracked right in the system. So again, we're just giving ourselves 5 minutes. I have a blank form and a blank process. I'll pull it up so you can see. Here's our blank PTO request form and our blank PTO request process. I also have a timer on the side for 5 minutes for a little bit of an extra challenge. And by the end of it, we'll have a workflow that I can demo and show you just how Nutrient can automate your process very quickly. So I'm going to start my timer in 3, 2, 1. All right, first thing I'm going to do is add a couple containers for some organization on the layout of the form. So I'll make this one 2 columns. And the first question that I'm going to add in is a contact search, and this is going to be the employee name. Now this contact search is a built-in question type that lets us check out any contacts or users that are in our software here. So I'm also going to drag in a radio button, and I'll call this request type. And on that pencil icon, I'm going to go to multi-choice options, and I'll add our vacation type and our sick type, and click save, and you can see the radio button's already there. Now I'm going to add a number field for number of hours requested. And then I'm also going to need a date range that the employee is requesting off. So I'll drag in a calendar and I'll call this start date, and I'll drag in another one and call that end date. And then finally, I'll drag in a long text and I'll call this comments to manager. And boom, you can see we have a form fully built. Now we're going to go into building our process. So first thing we're going to do is drag in a form task, and I'll call this PTO request form. And what we need to do is select the form that we just created to attach it to this task in the process. So configuration, and under configure task, I'm going to go select the form that we just created. And click save. So under recipients, I'm going to choose the requester. So whoever kicks this request off will get that form first. And then after that, I'm going to drag in a milestone. I will do pending manager approval. So now after our pending manager approval milestone, I will add in our manager approval task. And here I'm going to need some approval options for our manager. So if I right click under configuration and configure task, I'll add an option and I'll do approve and deny options. And then under this advanced settings tab, I can give that manager approver a decision if they want to enter comments or not. And I also want to display the form, the PTO request form, so they can see what they're actually approving. And then after that, we are going to need to assign a recipient to our manager approval. So our system can actually automatically assign the requester's manager. So we're going to do that dynamically. And I can click close. And now I'm going to add a couple milestones, so different paths. So we'll do one for manager approved. And we will also do one for manager denied. They'll stack on top of each other, so I'm going to drag those here. And then at the end, we're going to want to notify our requester of the status of the request. So I'll call this one requester notification. And I'm going to connect those two milestones to that notification and drag that notification to our end task. So if I were to run this right now, it actually would go down both of these paths because we didn't build any rules. So I'm going to add some functionality here. So under Manager Approved Milestone, under Configure Rules, I'm going to add a rule that uses the data from our Manager Approval task and tells it if the approval choice is approved, then it'll go down this path. And I'm going to do the same thing for our Manager Denied path. Choosing our approval choice, this time I'm choosing Denied. And now I'm going to add the recipient to our notification. Again, we want the requester to be notified of the status of the process. So here now you can see it's configured, but I do want to customize this notification just a bit. So here I'm going to call the subject line PTO request update, and then I'm going to use this pre-fill notification with request data. I'm going to pull in our last milestone value, so I'll add that to our subject line, and I want to show our requester what our manager said. So I'm going to add some data from our manager approval into our body. Now I can save it. One last thing I have to do when I have two paths going into one task, I have to go into the rules and make sure to change this and to an or, that way it will continue on to this task whether or not it was approved or denied. And our process is fully configured now. So I will run a request for you and test it out and kick it off just to see what the different steps look like. So I'll click Run Request and start it. Here is where we can choose our employee name, choose our request type, the amount of hours. We'll give ourselves a long weekend. And we'll submit it. And then this is what our manager is going to see once they click the email notification link they received. They can see the information that was submitted on the form, and then they can make a selection based on that information. So I'll approve it, and I'll tell them to enjoy. I'll submit it. And then now I can see in this Flow View tab that it actually flowed the right direction. So we went to our Manager Approved path and the requester got a notification. So I actually received an email with that notification, so I can show you what that looks like. It pulled in our latest milestone, and then I can also see the manager comments. So this notification is even customized a bit. As you can see, we have built a whole process from start to finish in just 5 minutes. We've covered a lot of different pieces of functionality. We've covered form building, approval tasks, setting up notifications, customizing them, and configuring process rules. So again, we only just scratched the surface of what's available, but again, it can be intimidating to get started with things. So there's a lot to unpack, a lot of things you can do with Nutrient Workflow, but the goal is to make this as easy to jump in and get started with automating process as you can. Even with no coding background, no technical experience, you can get in and start streamlining your processes and automating your business very quickly.